Hey guys, it's Mitchell here. So you're going to have to take notes a lot in college, sixth form and university, so you need to know how to do it properly so that way you can minimize your time revising and spend more time in actually enjoying your life. So with notes, you are going to have to take down information that your lecturers or teachers or tutors tell you. It may be their unique way of explaining certain concepts or equations or anything like that. So if you follow all of these tips, I'm actually going to show you how you can monetize your notes and sell them online towards the end of the video. So be sure to stay tuned for that. So the first question is why you should even take notes in the first place. So I imagine there's some of you here that haven't really taken notes before because they've been given stuff by teachers and then you've just been able to learn that and just basically done what your teachers have told you. That doesn't really work as you get into college, sixth form and university. So in general, you remember about 10% of what you hear. So this is when you're sitting in class, you're actually paying attention. You'll only remember roughly 10% of what they're saying. You remember about 20% of what you read. So if you're just sitting there reading a textbook, and again, you have to actually be concentrating. This is active reading, not just kind of scanning the words and then it's kind of just filtering into your brain, then going out of your ears. Okay. Now, if you were to read these notes properly and read them out loud to yourself or to another person, you can remember up to 50% of this. Now, if you write the notes in your own way, read them thoroughly using your brain, and also read them out loud to yourself, so all of this at the same time, so you write out the notes, then you read them out loud to yourself again, making sure that you're actually understanding the concepts, you can remember up to 70% of this. Now, it's important to remember that I'm not talking about typing here when I say writing notes. I specifically mean writing using a pen and paper or a tablet. So the reason why you should actually take heed of this advice and actually get good at note taking is because you'll spend less time revising and more time actually enjoying your life and your time at university or sixth form or whatever you're doing. Okay, so as for equipment, pretty obvious, you need a pen and paper. Yeah, wonderful, right? However, there are some extra things that you can get which will actually make your notes and take them to the next level. So the first one I'd suggest is things like highlighters and coloured pens. So the reason why this is really useful is your brain groups things together naturally that are colour-coded. So for example, with my notes, I may have, let's say, my class notes, so the ones I'm scribbling down in class, in black pen. Blue pen is my rewritten version. I have questions for my teacher in green, and then I have kind of an orange colour or a purple colour for what I need to, so messages to myself. So let's say I take down a diagram in class, it's a bit scruffy, I might say in purple, rewrite this and make sure you have different colours between these 2 points. Okay, just to make things super clear and interesting. Or I might say that the diagram has to be accurate, so the actual measurements matter. Now, I did say earlier that typing absolutely sucks. However, it's the 21st century and technology has graced us with a way to solve our issues. Instead of carrying around all these pens and paper and all that random stuff, and paper is a real hassle, and also it's better for the environment, right? You can use a tablet. So a lot of schools and universities actually provide tablets. However, I imagine most of us aren't fortunate enough to have access to that. So if you just buy yourself a relatively cheap tablet, you can actually do all of your note-taking on a tablet, and there are actually more advantages than just, you know, the environment and scruffy paper. There are apps designed for note-taking and they're absolutely amazing. So here's what I would suggest you do if you're lucky enough to have a tablet. If not, then pen and paper is still completely, totally fine. What I'd recommend you do is you email your teachers, lecturers, whatever in advance and ask them for the PowerPoint or the slides or the notes that they're going to use in the class. And what you're going to do is download that file. Now, all of these note-taking apps allow you to import files into the note-taking app itself. And then all you need to do is, in the lesson, use your magic pen that you get with the tablet, and you can highlight certain parts, you can rewrite certain parts next to it, and the best thing is, it's not restricted to A4. In my time that I've taken notes, and this isn't just for university or for sixth form, it's also when I've kind of done self-studying things like programming, I've had to write notes with pen and paper. A4 is so restrictive, okay? Because sometimes your diagrams need to be bigger. Sometimes you need a table that's a lot bigger. Sometimes your teacher will say something and you write it down, then they'll say, oh, actually, never mind, change it to this. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world and you feel like throwing your pen at them. Don't do that. With tablets, they have you can erase them instantly. That is a kind of understated benefit. And B, It has an unlimited width and height. So if you want, you can make a table 1,000 columns long if you want to for some reason. You can draw scale diagrams if you really want to. There are so many features that allow you just an amazing time with note taking. Okay? And it just looks neater. For some reason, my writing on a tablet always looks nicer than writing on pen and paper. So I don't know what kind of magic that is, but that's another benefit. So you may be thinking, what kind of apps? So my personal choices for the apps, I have two. One is Notability, and there's one notable thing about it. It allows you to do something really cool. It allows you to record audio while you're writing. Now that might sound like something ridiculous, but let me give you some context. Let's say your teacher's just written an equation on the board, right? And you're copying out that equation, but you can't really hear what they're saying, and you don't really have time to write down everything they're saying while you're writing down the equation, right? What if you could record what your teacher is saying while you're writing the equation, and then when you come back to the notes, you can click on the equation and it will replay what your teacher said. Hopefully, I don't know if that makes you as excited as it does me. I've actually only ever used a tablet for note taking very recently, and it is such an amazing thing because okay, let me give you some a little backstory. I went to university a few years ago, and some of the people in my class would actually sit there with a recording device or their phone and record the entire lecture, and these lectures were between 2 and 3 hours long. Now, it sounded extremely painful to me that they would go home, listen to the 2-3 hour lecture and add to their notes, because I know for a fact that the lecturers and the teachers would take breaks. There would be random questions from people that you might not care about. You hear your friends talking about random nonsense, or your teacher kind of stumbles or whatever. All of this stuff is irrelevant things, and you don't want to have to listen to 3 hours of class again when you've just sat through it. With this, you can record only the bits you like, and you don't have to go through and cut it up or rewrite the words because it's already organized in your notes, right? It's amazing. So that is the one key thing with Notability, because there's actually another note-taking app I prefer, but it doesn't do that one thing, and that's called GoodNotes. GoodNotes does literally everything that Notability does, except record the audio, which is why I mentioned it with the Notability. It does everything else it does though. And there's one massive benefit, is the organizational structure is 1,000 times better. Now, your brain may have just immediately turned off when I said organizational structure and you died of boredom, but believe me, when you have like lots of notes with lots of different subjects, being able to organize them really, really nicely is so important. So for example, you might have subject, and then it would be what level it is, so AS or A2 if you're doing sixth form, and then it would be topic, then chapter, etc. Whereas with Notability, it looks a bit uglier and it's a bit more difficult to navigate. So personally, GoodNotes is better for me, but again, if you find another app or you want to use Notability, that's totally fine. But personally, the second GoodNotes allows you to record audio, it's dead for Notability. Okay, next, when to make notes. Might seem like a ridiculously obvious thing to say, but in my opinion, there are actually 2 stages to making notes. Okay, maybe 3 if you want to stretch it and be really precise. The first stage is when you're actually in class or a lecture or whatever. This is when you write down only the absolute essential key things. So this is stuff that you can't find in textbooks. Please do not waste time copying out things that you can just read online or get through a textbook, because you will miss the other stuff. You will get more tired, which means you won't be able to write as fast, you won't be able to write the key points down, your brain will start turning off and everything will go poorly. Okay, that might be a bit of an exaggeration. So only the essential things. So if your teacher has a unique way of explaining something, or a limerick, if one of your classmates asked a really good question and you want to know the answer and you want to record it, if your teacher goes through an exam question, you want to note down the model answer, that is definitely one that I would recommend. Those are the things you want to copy down. You also want to write in shorthand. So this is when you're literally, you screw grammar, screw punctuation, all that stuff. Just write down in shorthand what you think. These should be notes that you can tell what you were saying at the time in the short term. So by the end of that day, you should be able to go, okay, I get what I mean. Now, if you look at these notes in a week's time, they won't make any sense to you. That's totally fine, because that's not the point of them. Now, as soon as humanly possible, whether this is during a break time, lunch time, a free period, which you will get during sixth form, college, university, or when you get home, you need to start writing out these notes properly. So let's say you have an hour of class, I would recommend spending between 30 and 45 minutes writing notes. It can be a lot less than that. So in certain subjects, you may not actually need to write that much. It may take you 15 minutes, but expect up to 45 minutes. And what you're going to do here is you're going to have your textbook out. You're going to have the notes that you've taken out. Ideally, you would have your teacher's lesson notes as well, and maybe an online resource. That sounds like a lot of different things, but you don't need to use them all at once. And what you're going to do is go through your notes and basically fill in the blanks. What you've done is made like a skeleton structure, and you're just going to fill in the stuff, put the meat on the bones, so to speak. So if you went through, let's say, photosynthesis, turn to the photosynthesis page in your textbook and write out the notes fully. Write them in your own words. Please don't just copy out the same thing over and over again. If you want to remember a specific phrase exactly, they recommend that you write it out 8 times. Now you may think, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. But let's say your lesson you did 4 pages of notes. What's better, to write those 4 pages of notes again, or to write them 8 times? Writing them out once in your own words is far better. You'll remember it far faster, okay? You're not looking to memorize stuff. You're here to learn, not memorize. I know that these things get kind of confused a lot of the time. And again, you want to use color. Group things together, and probably the most important thing, please write down questions for your teacher. I'm going to set you a challenge, and again, when we do the scheduling video, which is coming out shortly, I will make sure you schedule in time for this. Schedule time every single week to speak to every one of your teachers once. It doesn't matter if it's a 2-minute conversation where you say, hey, what's the homework? Or you spend half an hour with them talking through some questions you didn't understand. If you build that habit, it will make your life a lot easier. Your teachers will like you. They're more likely to write references and things like that for you, which you should start thinking about now. And again, like, you may wonder, how do I get time to do this during the day? If I'm at school for 6 hours and I'm meant to do half an hour per subject, that's like another 3 hours of note taking. When do I get time? Again, yes, it is a lot, but with a proper schedule, I promise you it's a lot easier than you think. Use the time when you're at school or university already to write these notes. Your free periods are so valuable. Because if you have, let's say, an hour of free periods in the middle of the day, what else are you going to do? Sure, you can mess around with your friends, but what if you just did an hour of note taking there? And that way you only have to do 30 minutes at home. Far more, it just makes more sense. It's far more intelligent, okay? Okay, so what is the kind of overall strategy? What are some other tips and tricks? First things first, and I can't stress this enough, get yourself separate ring binders, okay? You're going to separate it under 2 things. 1, the subject. 2, the level. Let's say you're in 6th form. You're going to have year 12 and 13. Let's say you do biology year 12, biology year 13, different folders, okay? If you're at university, 1 folder for every single module. If you're at college, one folder for every single subject or division inside of that, okay? Then in each of these folders, you're going to have subject dividers, and those are going to separate your chapters, okay? Now, there is every single year, and honestly, I fell prey to this as well. I say, oh, you know what, I'm doing 3 subjects, I'm going to buy 3 notebooks, I'm just going to keep all my notes in my notebook. What could possibly go wrong? Everything can go wrong, it always goes wrong, it's horrible. Many things can go wrong. So let's say on a day you have history, English, and law, for argument's sake. Again, this works for any 3 subjects, doesn't matter. Now let's say you forget your history notebook at home. That means you're going to write your history notes in your law notebook. And then you're not going to remember to rip out your law page from your law notebook, but then even if you did, how you put it into your history notebook is going to be out of order. You're going to have loose pages in your notebook, and these loose pages will fall out, and then your life will be horrible and everything will go bad. Okay, probably not that badly, but it happens all the time. Also, what happens when you need to buy another notebook for a subject? Again, it's not organized. I would also like to remind you that by the time of your final exams, and it doesn't matter if you're doing university, college, or A-levels, you're going to have around 200 to 300 pages of notes. Now, if you say, you know what, I want to do that stuff chapter 2 and sub-chapter 3, are you going to be able to find that easily, or are you going to flip through 300 pages of notes trying to find that one specific thing, realize that you've lost it and you wasted an hour of your life and you've tortured yourself? It's much better. I promise you, it takes literally 30 seconds every single day to just come home, rip out all of your work, and also you're going to get handouts from your lecturers and your teachers. So you need a place to put those. If you just slot them into your notebook, they're going to fall out and you're going to have a horrible time. And you put them behind each one. So let's say it's my biology folder and we just did chapter 1. Then what I'm going to do is, in order, I'm going to put all of my classwork, homework, mock exams that I've done, and handouts. And I'm putting it in order, nice and neatly. I'll label my stuff with the chapters and everything, and also my notes as well, okay? And then as this fills up, it's going to be nice and orderly. Okay, if I want to find chapter 2 stuff, I open up my biology folder, pick out the subject divided for chapter 2, turn it over on there, done. Takes 10 seconds. And I promise you this takes about 30 seconds every single day, but people tend to be quite lazy. So what I like to do is in my schedule, I literally write down that for 10 minutes when I get home, I'm just going to organize my work. That's it, I get the job done, I get the kind of task complete. Now I do hear complaints like, but then I have to carry like 4 folders and 4 notebooks and blah, blah, blah. Why? If you plan what you're going to do during your free time, you only need to bring like 1 folder, right? And that's the one that contains whatever work you need for that free period. So don't worry about bringing all of them or like having to like develop huge back muscles just to carry your bag to university or something. I promise it's a lot easier than it sounds. Okay, so as promised, I'm actually going to flip over to my computer now and I'm going to show you a few websites where you can monetize your notes, make a bit of extra cash. Again, don't expect to be like Jeff Bezos or anything, but you may get, who knows, if you get like £100, that's pretty good. It's £100 you wouldn't have got normally. You might discover you have a knack for it and then go into things like UX or UI design or graphic design, maybe lay out your notes nice and neatly and maybe you can make a bit of money from it. So let's get over to it. Okay, so here we are. This is stuvia.com. This is probably the most popular note selling website around. So I have a few other links in the description. They all work practically the same way. So all you need to do here is, as you can see, you can find different study resources, but in our case, we're actually looking to sell some stuff. So you just click sell, and then all you have to do is select which level it is. So what's your level of study? It can be A level, BTEC, IB, or university level. So this works for pretty much anyone. So let's say A level, and then you select the exam board. So then let's say it's AQA. What subject should we do? Let's do physics, right? Actually, let's do, just pick geography, it doesn't really matter. Module, it can be introduction, or let's see. So if you type in geography, it actually comes up with the chapters that are there. So we can just say geographical skills, and then all you do is you choose your files to upload, and just drag on whatever one you want. So it has a 60 megabyte file limit size, so I'd recommend just doing PDFs, for example, and then you can also add another course. And that's literally all you have to do. After that, you just describe the documents, it gets published, and then you can start earning money. So it's super easy. They all work the exact same way, but I would recommend Stuvia. This isn't kind of endorsed or anything like that, but this is definitely what I would use. But it's super easy to do, and you just get the money straight into a PayPal account or a bank account. Okay, so I hope that you found this super useful. Be sure to check out the note selling websites even. I've left links to all of them in the description, along with some sources for different note-taking methods if you're interested. Again, there's no harm in just putting yourself out there on these note-selling websites. Don't worry if it's not good enough. Do you know what happens when it's not good enough? No one buys it. But honestly, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's up there now. Maybe someone will buy it someday and you make money that you never would have had before. As always, I hope that you have a truly wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one.